Welcome to another TNS short where we discuss a single topic in a quick manner. Today's topic that we're going to be discussing are caster rankings, and well, we're going to be making them live here in this video and basically rank all the official casters at HiRez right now. And we're going to go from bottom to top and talk about them real quick, each one of them, and well, discuss. And yeah, Sabo, do you want to start with your bottom pick?
Well, if you've listened to our show before, there's no reason why you shouldn't know my bottom pick. And
Yeah.
his name rhymes with Anatoly. No, wait, it is Anatoly.
Well, Anatoly also rhymes with Anatoly, I guess.
Well, it's no secret that he has his issues, or I have my issues with his casting. Uh, Mainly because he overstates the obvious a lot of the time. What I mean by that is, take for example the cast he did at the Super Regionals this year, where it was game one against Luminosity and Space Station, and he said Space Station lost that game one in the regular season to Luminosity because they gave up too much damage on their Titan.
Yeah.
And that was it. I'm like, elaborate some more, totally, because that's how every game ends. I mean, you just can't leave us at that. I mean, yeah, if you're watching HiRez TV, you kind of understand what he was getting at, but is even, what if it's that first time that anybody's ever watched the cast? You got to do a better job at explaining yourself, and it's just the fact that he overstates the obvious is why I have him in last. Oh, and
Yeah.
I hate it when Bastet gets picked in games he casts in. I hate
The
how he
scratchies.
says kitties and scratchies and
That is something I actually like. But yeah. No, I think you're making a good pointer about him. My seventh place pick or last place pick is also Toly, and it's for a lot of the same reasons, honestly. Like as you said, he states the obvious, and I'm sure he has good thoughts behind it. Right, he is a very smart player still. I'm very certain about that. He's a high level player. Played. He's been a pro in the past, so he has knowledge about the game, and he doesn't say stupid stuff, or he doesn't think stupid stuff like they lost because they gave up too much damage to the Titan. He just says it because he doesn't find a better way to word it, to express himself in that moment. And that is his big issue, I think. I also have trouble vocalizing myself. So yeah, that is the big issue I see with him, honestly. Outside of that, I think he is a decent caster. I think he's still overall not as well spoken as the others. But that's not a big issue if you are still able to properly express your thoughts in a way that makes a lot of sense to people, right? And that's not completely overly obvious.
there's definitely room to grow for him. He's, like I say, in my opinion, he overstates the obvious and doesn't explain himself enough. Uh, like I said, it's kind of hard to do on a live cast where action is happening so fast that you gotta, you know, always be on top of what you're going to say next. But if you say something like what he said at Super Regionals, go into a little bit more detail. We know, you and I both know that Space Station failed to protect their Titan against fire minions.
Yeah.
And but the people who don't pay attention to the pro league as much as we do might not know that, and to them it sounds like some guy stating the obvious. And that's what I want to see. I want to see him grow a little bit more in expressing his ideas.
Yeah, as I said, that I think that's the main area in which he can improve, definitely. So my second to last pick, if I'm just gonna continue myself, is Taco. And Taco, like we talked about before as well, she has a bit of the opposite issue to Toli, right? Where she makes those long-winded explanations a lot of the time when they're not necessary and when you can't really fit them into the cast without somehow distracting from something else that's going on, right? And yeah, I think outside of that, she is also a good caster, obviously. That's just the one issue that I can really see with her. Outside of that, I think she also isn't as well spoken as the other guys, right? The ones that I would put ahead of her, that we're gonna get to later on. And something that can be a bit of an issue with her as well, I find, is the conversation tends to flow a bit more freely when there's a casting pair that's not involving her, honestly. Because sometimes when you're not purely talking about the game, it seems like she doesn't respond as well to the sort of banter that the casters do as others in the casting team. At least that's the way I see it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, her biggest issue is not just that she doesn't have good banter skills with the other casters, and that's it really what it takes to be a team as when you're casting as a team up there. But a lot like Totally, she doesn't have a lot of glaring issues, but compared to the other casters on the team, there's not really, a lot of the other casters don't have a big glaring issue.
Yeah.
And reason why Taco is not higher on our list is because she just like you said, complete opposite of Tully. She kind of over explains things to the point where it's kind of just her rambling on, and nobody's, Hindu Man and Aggro and Finch are all, or not Finch, not so much Finch yet, but F dot, are all trying to like get her back on track or get her to flow more with the action, and she struggles with that sometimes. Another problem she had early, but she's kind of fixed, is the when like F dot or Aggro would ask her a question about what's going on in the game or why they would choose this pick over somebody else. She would, well, I think this is the reason why they picked and why that's not picked, and she would talk and ramble for about 10 to 15 seconds before she actually answered the question. And to me, it kind of sounded like she was trying to get an answer to the question instead of just answering the question. Like she was trying to think of an answer.
Yeah, to collect her. She was kind of taking her time to collect her thoughts, right? And rambling while doing it.
Yeah, it's okay to take time to collect your thoughts. Just like keep the rambling to a minimum. And like I said, that was a problem she had early on, but she's kind of fixed that as she's gotten more experience. With her and Totally, and my ranking is the same as you. I have her just above Totally. A lot of these issues are just going to be fixed with time and experience, and they should be better. If we do this next year, they should be better. But we don't know if they're going to be any higher because we don't know who else is joining the casting team, who's leaving, what. But like for now, Taco and Totally, they just need time and experience, and they're going to get plenty of that.
Yeah, I think an issue whenever you're sort of in a competition with someone else, right? Like they are within our rankings right now, is it's not just you that's going to be improving, right? It's also everyone ahead of you and everyone behind you. And if you want to move up the rankings, you sort of have to improve more than the people ahead of you. And if they're able to do that, Taco and Toli, then yeah, they can get further ahead in the ranking. Or if people leave the casting team and worse casters come in, they can get further ahead. Outside of that, it's gonna be hard anyway, right? Whatever happens, basically. So yeah, you want to tell us your fifth place caster?
Well, for fifth place, kind of have one of those casters that not on HiRez TV all that much. He's the Australian caster, Hughesy. Uh, why I have him fifth compared to Taco and Tolly, even though we don't see him as much, is when he's on the cast, and is mostly when the Australian team makes the trip to Atlanta or trip to a big event where he travels with that Australian team. But the reason I like him here is because he's had plenty of experience. We've seen him enough. He doesn't jumble over his words like me or you do. He's got great ideas. He keeps the conversation flowing. He's a great great first chair. And in caster terms, first chair is the second chair is play by play, and the
What? I think you have that mixed up. Like, I think, isn't the first chair play by play, and the second chair is.
and so QC comes in at fifth for me.
Sabo, I'm sorry, you kind of cut out there when you were explaining what the first chair is.
Okay, well, but in the two chairs is the second chair is your play-by-play. He's your analysis. They're the one that's going to explain what's going on and why it's happening. Your first chair is the guy that's going to keep the conversation flowing and keep the second chair from getting stuck for too long on one point. He's the I forgot the official term for it, but yeah, that's what the first chair's job is to do. He's to begin the cast, he's to end the cast, and he's to keep everything flowing in between. Where your second chair again is your play-by-play, the analysis. That's what I mean by the two chairs.
Yeah. I get what you're saying with that in that case. So, yeah, I think Husey, I don't have as much of an opinion on him as I am on the other casters, obviously, because we get to see a lot less of him than we do of the other ones, right? As you said, he's only really at the big international lands that happen, so that's maybe 3 lands a year at most, right? And that gives him a lot less exposure. When he's there, when we get to see him, he always makes a good impression on me, right? He is also well spoken, like most of the other casters that HiRez themselves employ, and he also always brings some amount of insight into the OC scene, which is good for people like, well, basically anyone who only mostly focuses on NA and EU, like I think both of us do. So I think it's great to have him there whenever an OC team is visiting. And that's what I can value in him, right? Outside of that, he seems like a fairly neutral caster to me, if that makes any sense.
You cut out just a little bit.
Yeah, where did I cut out?
All I heard there was, towards the end, was the cast. What I caught the tail end of the question you were asking.
I wasn't asking a question. I was just stating that he brings insight into the OC's scene whenever he comes and casts for HiRez at the international lands. And that's something I value in him. outside of that, he seems like a fairly neutral caster, but that's still generally good, right?
Yeah, you can't. You have to remain professional as a caster. You can't have a one team favorite over the other, even if you used to play for that team or have a friend on that team or whatever it is. If that's the region you cover, you got to remain aloof from it all. You can't have a favorite. You got to remain professional, and so he does that very well when he comes with DreamHack and stuff like that. And that's
Yeah.
what I like his accent too. It's very awesome accent and
Oh, I don't
brings
like that. I
brings
don't
a
like it too much.
brings a lot to the casting team that we're not used to seeing. And as that's he doesn't have a whole lot of glaring issues, but that's because we don't get to see him as much as we do as everybody else.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I honestly think that's something I'm just gonna throw in here. I honestly don't like his voice too much, but that's obviously a very subjective criticism. I just don't like it too much. Anyway, moving on. I think number 4 is where we first have a different person on the list compared to one another. My number 4 is HiRez Finch, the newest cast member that they've added. And yeah, I think he is still not as open on the cast as a lot of the others, right? He seems a bit more professional than maybe a guy like F Dot in comparison, which is probably the most off-topic caster that HiRez has. But within that, when he does that, right, Finch is extremely good at a cast. He's extremely well spoken, and he has a certain amount of game knowledge to back the entire thing up, right? I think we've had casters in the past who have had issues with the game knowledge, even though they've had a lot of experience talking and hosting things. Finch, in addition to this natural talent that he seems to have to just talk about anything whatsoever, also seems to have a real interest in Smite and a real knowledge about Smite to actually be able to hold a good conversation at a high level about it, which makes him a very good caster in my opinion.
Well, you're different caster at number 4, but while we're on the topic of Finch, I have Finch at number 3, and for a lot of the same reasons that you have him at number 4. I just think this guy came in from the very first cast he did on week 2 of the fall split, where I didn't know who he was when I first saw him, but I thought he killed it, and I just feel like he's killed it ever since then. He's got a good ability to just talk, and he's energetic, and he's we've seen him in the first chair. We haven't actually seen him in the second chair yet. And if you want to make some sort of issue with him being number 3, I think that's where you can make it, because he hasn't shown the ability to do both roles yet. But that's probably because he hasn't had the opportunity to do it yet. But he came in and he killed it. He did a great job. He's had good cast with everybody he's worked with, and he's got natural talent that I don't think anybody else has, and you can't not like him when he's on the cast.
Yeah,
I think one area he needs to work on is that flow of the game. He kind of gets a little stuck every now and then, and that's not what you want from your first chair. But he doesn't. It's not a glaring issue where it happens week and week and week after week after week. It's just few and far between. But guy who has so little casting experience before he was on the caster and before he joined HiRez as a caster, I think he has just been out of this park, and that's why I have him at number 3.
Yeah, I think overall he's just been a great addition to the team, right? He's brought something in there that really fits well, and I love to have him on there, honestly. So you had obviously a different number 4. Who was that? Tell us about him.
I had F Dot at number 4, and I like F Dot. I like him a lot. He's probably my favorite person of the casting team, but if we're just talking professional casters, uh, he gets off topic a little bit too much for me, for my liking. Um, he's funny when he does it. He's shown the ability to do both chair 1 and chair 2 at a high level. It's just he gets off topic way too much, and it's funny, but it still has nothing to do with Smite, and I want to see him kind of get away from that, but that kind of who he is, and that's kind of what makes F Dot so interesting. But
yeah,
professionally, that's why I don't have him higher than I have him now at number 4.
Yeah, he is actually my number 2, and definitely his main attribute sort of is the fun he brings into the cast, right? And part of that is him going pretty massively off topic and just talking about some random stuff. And I think if when he does it right, it works perfectly well. It's amazing because the times when it's supposed to be used is in relaxed moments where nothing much is happening anyway, and there is no real action to talk about. And at that point in time, you have two things you can do. You can either go in depth into some deep aspect of the game and talk about that, or you just bring in a bit of lighthearted fun, which is fun to listen to and keeps viewers engaged, even though not a lot is going on. And I love that about him, honestly. And yeah, sometimes he does it too much, but I think the general quality that he brings in with being able to do this and being able to do it better than everyone else on the casting team, it evens that out perfectly. And I think he's also the second best typecaster, like caster for hype moments that HiRez has. And obviously, he's well spoken as well. The other issue that I guess you can see with him is that he doesn't have as deep of a game knowledge as the ex-pros like Aggro and like Totally do. But because he's still able to express himself fairly well, or very well, he can still get a lot of use out of the knowledge that he does have. And I think that makes him a good caster.
I get your point about if there's downtime in the action, you can do one of two things, and I think he's great at that, bringing in some white artness to the cast. Uh, it's a little too much at times, I think, but again, that's just who he is, and it's very funny when it's at the right time, and when it's not at the right time, like if a team's getting ready to end it and he's imitating Kuzumbo laugh, like that's when it's a little too much. But
yeah,
I think he does a great job. I think he's, like I said, he's shown the ability to do both chairs. He's better at the chair number 1 than he is chair number 2. But that's, like you said, he just doesn't have the amount of game knowledge as the ex-pros do, like Aggro and Totally. And even, somebody like Hindu Man who's in a high level of ranked where, F-Dot's, spoiler alert, F-Dot's in gold. And so,
yeah,
just by that factor alone, he's not going to have the knowledge of the game like Hindu Man would. Hindu Man's diamond.
Not sure,
middle of
honestly.
diamond.
He
And
is
so yeah,
good. That's the
but
main thing.
that's what I mean. Like it's just working knowledge of the game. Hindu Man's going to be have a more knowledge than F dot, and that's really when he's the second chair. That's where his weakness is, but he still has a good working knowledge of the game, and he can do that second chair great.
Yeah. And I think what's worth pointing out is the main thing we're criticizing him for that going off topic. It is a heavily subjective thing, right? That's why I think F dot is more polarizing caster than most of the others, because the thing he does, you need to either like it or you don't like it, and depending on that, you will either like F dot's casting or you won't. And both of us like it to a certain degree, obviously, because I have him ranked higher than you, and but yeah, not sure where I was going with that, honestly. It's subjective. That's all I was saying.
Well, do
Eh,
you want to tell everybody who your number three is since you've already revealed number two?
yes. We shouldn't skip it. So my number three is Aggro, and Aggro. He's also come in a bit later than some of the other casters, right? Like the F dot, like the Hindu Man. But he has also fit great into the team. He can also really go off in those off-topic conversations as well. Because he's an ex-pro, he has a great game knowledge, even though he's from console, which is, I'm not going to share my opinion on consoles all that much, but I don't hold them as highly as PC, that's all I'm going to say. And yeah, I think he works well in conversations with the other casters, right? With an F dot or with a Hindu Man. And that's where I think a lot of his value lies, is that they can really unlock him to a certain degree, and when they do, he becomes an amazing caster for the game. And he's also well spoken, right? He also seems to have a similar talent to Finch, where he is just a natural talker, right? He's been interested in sports broadcasting in the past, I think, and that's given him a lot of sort of knowledge about how to cast and experience about how to cast. So that's why he seems to fit in really well at HiRez, and why he's been a great addition to the casting team as well, in my opinion.
Yeah, uh, I agree with everything you said. I just have him ranked number one, and that means that we both have, one person left on our rankings, and it's Hindu Man. For you, he's number one. For me, he's number two. But while we're on aggro, before we get to Hindu Man,
Yeah.
why I have aggro number one is because yes, he's professionally, he's had that desire to be a caster forever. Sports casting being one of his go-tos at times. When he came in on a random cast in season 3, Group D in the fall split, he just came in talking about making baseball references to Anatoly's, or not Anatoly, but Adonis's ego. And he's really, he has that degree. He's the only one with a degree in broadcasting.
Oh, he does?
And yes, and it shows through his work, I think. He's a good number one. He's a good first chair. He is able to cover a lot of the mistakes that everybody else makes. Uh, he's able to, keep the conversation flowing with Totally and Taco. He's able to get effed up back on track. Him and Finch work really well together, and probably the best casting duo in all of Smite's, Hinduman and Aggro. But so
Yeah.
we know he works with Hinduman very well. He's also shown the ability to be an outstanding chair number two with somebody who struggles at times with that second chair, like an F dot or a Finch. And since he's really good at both chairs, and he's that professional talker. He has the experience being an ex pro. He brings a lot of the insights to the cast, and he's just fun to listen to. I bring up the fact that him and Hindu Man are probably the best casting duo that we have when they are paired together. The one place he struggles with is Hindu Man flabbergasts him sometimes, but
Yeah.
that's the nature of Hindu Man.
Yeah.
But he's also good at that banter with Hindu Man, and I just think that the fact that he has that degree and that he has shown the ability to knock both chairs out of the park and to really cover up some of the mistakes that the rest of the casters have, that's why Aggro's number one for me.
Yeah, I
And
can. Yeah, go ahead.
no, I was moving on to Hindu Man, but if you have something else to say.
Yeah, I can agree with that choice, right? I think that choice makes a lot of sense if you sort of value the ability to do both things very highly. I think I generally just tended more towards picking the people who are at their best within those individual roles, and I think Aggro is probably the best chair 2 within HiRez, or at least he's very good at it still. I just think a guy like F Dot, who I have ahead of him, obviously as my number 2 instead of number 3, I think F Dot does better in the chair 1 than Aggro does, and if he plays towards his strength, right, then he can be the better caster within a singular cast and within within a single game. But yeah. Anyway, moving on to the last pick that you have left, your number 2, as you said already, Hindu Man. Tell me.
Well, there's a reason why we both have Hindu Man in our top two. Obviously, you have him number one, and I have him number two. He is an anomaly. Do you understand? Do you understand the reference? Do you get what I'm trying to say?
No, I don't think so.
It doesn't seem like he should be so good, but he's really, really good, and he's it just it his personality and how different he is in real life than he is compared to his cast. I mean, we heard it with Blur when Blur was our guest on the show. Hindu Man is a monster on cast, but when you get him off cast, he's really helps everybody else. He wants
Yeah.
everyone to be the best they can, and that is what makes him so much of an anomaly for me. It's I get it. There's a difference between on cast and off air. That's there's a little bit of difference there because you want a different personality. You don't want to be that grade A asshole that he is on on cast. And I'm not spoiling anything. Hindu Man can be a straight up monster to other casters, but that's during the cast. When he's off, he's a sweetheart. He's one of the nicest people at HiRez. And what I like about his casting, though, and what I think makes him number 2 behind Aggro, is his ability to just banter with everybody and always come out on top.
Yeah.
He has shown great ability to do number 1, the chair number 1, and great ability to do chair number 2. Though he does, we said this about F Dot. He's not an ex-professional. He's not Aggro. He's not totally. He doesn't have that professional point of view when it comes to analysis from the chair 2, but he still does it really well. Uh, he's great at both positions. He's good at number 1. He's good at number 2. I just think he's a little bit behind Aggro because Aggro has shown me a little bit more from just the knowledge of casting. Not so much the knowledge of Smite, but the knowledge of casting. Because of course Aggro has that degree that nobody else has. And, but Hindu Man is by far, one of the best casters we have on Smite.
Yeah, yeah, definitely so. Like, I agree with a lot of the things you said. He is just a banter machine, and he is amazing at it, right? And I think that's what you can see with him is just a generally very British attitude, right? All the banter, but behind it you have a good guy. Like Blur said a couple of weeks ago. I don't remember how many weeks exactly it was. I think it was 3 weeks. Doesn't matter anyway, right? The point is, I think he is able to banter so well because as a British guy, right, as a stereotypical British guy, he doesn't take offense to it, and he doesn't feel like it's offensive when he's giving something out. And because he is such a nice dude, people don't take it in an offensive way when he does it to them, because they know it's just banter, and that's what Hindu Man does. And as you said, he does it so well. And then he is it's just a great guy. And out of all the casters that I think can do well in hype moments, I think he is the best one that HiRez has right now. Like, he is really able to hype up a moment if it deserves hype, and generally when he does it, it is actually deserving of hype as well. And in addition to that, yeah,
I agree. He is the best hype man we have currently. Even better than Aggro, in my opinion, at hyping it up.
yeah.
And, yeah, go ahead. Just you keep going.
Yeah, and as you said, he also has a decent game knowledge, right? He's been a fairly high-level player within ranked for most of his career. He has, in the past, shown that he has the knowledge to cast people to really become better when they're not necessarily playing at the highest level, right? He had a series back in season 1 where he was trying to cast to coach a guy from bronze to masters. That's what the series was called. And he was able to really go in depth, right? He did coaching for teams when they sent in demos to him, and they would get advice from him about what they did wrong, what they can do better, right? That's all kind of shows me that he has decent game knowledge for someone who's not been a pro, right? For someone who's not been a pro, he has amazing game knowledge that is only really matched by or exceeded by people who are pros or former pros. And then he's obviously well spoken as well, right? He doesn't stumble over his words a lot, and most importantly, and that is the most important aspect, he has a British accent.
That's why he's number one, right?
Definitely. See, I have in my notes for Hinduman, the last point I have in there is British, and for F dot, the last point I have in there is not British.
But he's got that Long Island accent.
Yeah, but it's not British.
That kind of like gangster Italian fight me accent.
See, nothing beats a British accent. I'm sorry. It's just how it is.
Do your best British accent.
Oh no, I'm not going to, because it's going to be terrible.
Do
Like,
it.
the only thing I could do is do a terrible Scottish one.
All right, I'll tell you what. Next week, well, I'll ask Reddit if we can get so many views on this episode of the TNS short. You have to do a British accent next week.
It's going to be terrible. Like, we might have Finch here even, so it's going to be even more embarrassing.
Do you agree to it though?
Yeah,
we get
yeah.
so many. You have to do a British accent.
How many?
All right, let's say 30.
Okay. But you have to
30?
promise that you're not just going to be watching it 30 times yourself.
I don't think it works that way.
It does.
I don't.
Well,
Okay.
don't try it. Don't try it anyway. But I will agree, yeah. I will do a British accent. Promise.
Let's do it this way. Instead of views, thumbs up. On
Okay.
YouTube, thumbs up.
Okay.
Because I can only thumb up one time.
Okay, how many? 5?
Do you want to go 5?
Yeah, let's do it.
5 thumbs up, and you do a British accent next week. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Something forward to something to look forward to next week. Hopefully,
Yes,
Finch is
yes.
here to witness this.
I hope
Okay.
not. See, now I don't want
We-
Finch to come on, so I'm gonna send him angry Twitter messages.
This will be the reason why we never get hired at HiRez. Because Finch will witness that and be like, no.
Yeah.
But you agreed to it, so
Yeah, it's gonna be
Everything's
my
on the
fault as well.
everything's on the line. It's all on you. So I'd be practicing this week.
Oh, God.
I'd be walking around just talking in a British accent all week. Well,
In Switzerland, where no one will understand me. It's gonna be great. Yeah. And that's it from this week. As we said,
You want to do a quick recap of both of our power rankings? Because it was kind of a jumbled up because we got to talking about one guy and we just kept talking about that same guy. So let's do
Yeah.
a quick recap.
yeah, sure. Okay, start with yours.
All right, coming in at number 7 for both of us, and so it's Tully at number 7. We have it abbreviated for Tully, or abbreviated to Tully for some reason, so I said Tully. But it's Anatoly at number 7. Our girl Taco at number 6. The Australian wonder Hughesy at number 5, and then we differ. Number 4, I have F. Dud. And number 3, I have our guest next week, hopefully, Finch. We have the king of banter himself, Hindu Man, coming in the number 2 for me. And number 1, I can't think of a good nickname for Aggro, so I'll just say Aggro. Aggro,
Yeah.
number 1 for me.
Oh, I'm terrible with nicknames. So, as you said, number 7 through 6 for 5 for me are totally Taco and Husey. Number 4, different from yours, is Finch, the big new guy. Is that offensive? I hope not.
That it probably is. I wouldn't say that next week in front of him
Well, he is pretty.
because you're
pretty big.
making fun of his weight now, and I don't know if he's sensitive about his weight, but I wouldn't bring that up in front of him.
Okay,
We want
okay.
to make him happy, not piss him off.
Well, yeah, we don't want to make him aggro, which is my number 3. That was terrible. My number 2 is the Long Island dude, F dot, and my number 1 banter machine, Hindu Man. So yeah, those are our rankings.
We send all of your complaints to TuesdayNightSmite@twitter.com.
That's not how this works, man. It's not an email address. It's Twitter.com.
Twitter.com/Tuesday Night Smite.
Yeah, but it's Tuesday Night Smite, because Tuesday Night Smite would have been too long of a Twitter handle.
TUES Night Smite.
Yeah, you can see it on the bottom left on your screens, by the way. So, just go there, or it's in the video description.
Any disagreements, any complaints about Roby Dog's terrible puns, whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
Twitter.com/TuesNightSmite.
Or you can tweet them at me directly as well. That works. If you want to. Anyway, that was it from this week's TNS Short. As always, give us a like, follow, and subscribe wherever you can. And we hope you all enjoyed. We will hopefully have Finch on next week. He couldn't make it this week. Not entirely sure why, but we're not mad at him or anything. But yeah, with that said, good night, good smite.